Hello, fam, Unlock Academy fam, and YouTube fam. This is Alex Horton, and I am continuing work on our PC Parent Service build. So I have updated some of my wireframe application flow or my flowchart. And so let's take a look at what we've got thus far. So we're in our project. We're going to go ahead and go over to our repository. Click on the PC Parent Service repository. And I've added a couple of other links here. I added this text file, and I'm jotting down links that I'm using, and to get answers on different questions that I have as I go along. And then this is the actual flowchart, and I'm going to download a copy of that. I just added it up here, just so I had a copy of it. Okay, so throwing a little bit of color in here, and I added some. I added the mail service part that we're going to do. It's another function. So going back to our project, if we remember, we want the functionality to be able to track when users log into the computer. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to track that. We're going to send notifications. So that takes care of that. It's going to track when applications are launched and logs into the application viewer. So we're going to monitor apps. We're going to find out if it's a browser. If it's not a browser, we're going to update the application viewer log and continue to monitor the app. If it is a browser like Internet Explorer or Google or Chrome or something like that, we're going to check the flag in the database. And that flag, what it's going to do is it's going to check to see if the person who's launching the browser has access to use the browser. So what we're also going to do is we're going to configure a database in a table that we can set, while we're remote. We'll come up with a different solution for that, but this is just kind of a really bare bones basic solution. So what we're going to do is use a little bit of ORM development. If it is yes, then they can use it. We're going to go over here, log the attempt, send a notification. Hey, there is a browser that's running. We're going to notify. We're going to continue to monitor the app, and go from there. So I added this mail service because this is going to be stage 2 of the mail service. And actually, let me get rid of that circle. And we're going to just copy this and paste it in over here as the mail service. And so we're going to gather the information of the person who is running the app. We're going to create a new instance of a mail client. What we're going to do then is we're going to find out what kind of a notification we're running. So we've got 3 notifications that we can do. We've got a login notification. We've got a terminate notification over here. And then thirdly, we have a non-terminate, it's okay to run the browser notification here. So we'll go into this particular part of the flow, and we'll do the first one. This is login. Oops. There we go. It's our login notification. I don't know why it makes the font so large. There we go. This one is going to be the restricted browser notification. We'll make this one red like we've been doing here. And then this one we're going to make this one the unrestricted browser notification, like so. And depending on the one that we're going to do, we're then going to set the subject of that particular notification. Go down here. And they're all going to branch here. So I just have that fill there. Draw some connectors to that process. Draw another connector. Not that one. We'll make a regular straight arrow down there. Boom. And then this one is going to go straight down as well. Boom. And what this one is going to be, so once we know what notification we're sending, we're set subject and body of email. Set that subject, and actually not just the subject, we're going to set the from subject and the body of the email. Then we're going to do an action. Right here. No fill on the shape. And we're going to do text fill. And we're going to send email notification. That. And then we're going to go back. Oh, you know what? Let's do one last thing here. So we're going to verify that we did send out our email notification. We're going to log that. To the service log. Write log entry. And then we're going to, let me go ahead and add my connectors here. Boom. And boom. There we go. Another thing we're going to do real quick is we're going to put our text right there. Login notification. This. This one is non-restricted. Copy that. And then this one is obviously going to be restricted. All right, so either way, if there's a success or a failure in our notification, we want to always write a log entry. Excuse me. And now that we are there, we would say we are done. We're gonna return. to our program. So no fill there. Edit text, just say return. That will take us back to our program, our calling program. There. Save as, yes. Desktop. Yep, I do. All right. So we've got basically our two parts of our workflow here. And over here, what we're going to do is we're going to, I should change that shape there to be, just for consistency, no fill. Right there, right, log entry. I'm gonna stick you up there, stick you right there, get rid of you, and we'll pull you down, back. Okay, this thing's being picky, me and anal about this. There we go. Save that. So now we are ready to go. We've got our workflow kind of hammered out. It's just really high level. It's not going to be too exact. I mean, we can get more into the weeds as we start to develop code. And now I've saved this. Come back over to my repository. And actually, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it documentation. I'm going to stick all that documentation in there. Boom. Oh, you know what? I need to delete that. Let's delete this file there. Need a folder, not a file, dummy. Okay. So actually, let's take these three things here. I'm going to grab this information. So let's really quickly open up a command prompt, or actually open up PowerShell. And we're going to go over to cd dev. And cd dev. And we're going to call this, actually, cddr. Let's see where we want to stick this thing at here. We've got a lot of folders here. And one of these folders is a code. Do I have an Unlock Academy one? I do. Let's just make a directory. PC Service. PC Parent. Let's see what's in here. Okay. Yeah, we'll call that PCParentService. And actually, I'm going to do a git clone. And I'm going to clone this repository. All right, so let's make a folder. We're going to call it documentation. All right, let's do this the old-fashioned way here. I got my PC parent service. We're going to move all this stuff into our documentation folder. Leave the README out there. All right, and then we're going to do a git add documentation, git status. I think it's called git status. All right, git commit m added documentation folder. All right, this is the part where I get a little fuzzy here. Git push origin git push. There we go. So now I've got a documentation folder with the same stuff in there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to delete these because it's redundant. Under documentation, same thing here. Under capital D. Folder, and one more. Delete. Okay, so we've got a documentation here, and then real quick, like. I'm going to open up, not in there, in here, open up the flow chart, and I know you can save them as individual slides as JPEGs, but we're gonna make a quick copy of our first page. We're gonna give it the same name, which is this right here. PC parent flowchart. Save as. Over to our B folder. Give it the same names. Yep, I want to go ahead and delete it. Do the same thing for this one. New. drag and drop, copy, save as. This is going to be our PC parent flow chart. Web mail client flow. Close that. Close that. Go back over here. Do another git add. Actually, let's go cd documentation git add star git commit -m. We're going to do added or updated workflow, process flow, I should say. Added new process, new flow. Git commit, git push. Excuse me. So what it's saying is, it's saying that I've got changes. Let's just do this real quick. Let's open up that. Let's open up that file location. We're going to copy this stuff right here into another folder real quick. We're going to do a pull. Boom. Should have overwritten some stuff here. Now, git add, git push. So then over here, our other flowchart page should pop up here soon. There's our flowchart right there. We can see everything. Now we are ready. We are ready to create some code. So let's get started with that. We're going to go into Visual Studio. And we can close our Windows PowerShell, by the way. We're going to go ahead and get connected to our GitHub account. So you come to the Visual Studio. Well, first off, before we get too far down the road, there's a few things we want to do before we launch Visual Studio. Obviously, you want to make sure that you have everything configured right. So I'm going to click Get Tools and Features, and our Visual Studio installer will pop up. And I'm going to show you the tools that you should have for what we're going to do today. We may have to add a few here and there, but that is what it is. You can get Visual Studio Community by going into the Visual Studio downloads. So at the minimum, you want to have ASP.NET, web development. I click Python because we're going to do Python. Well, I do Python with the other one. .NET development, desktop. I already have mobile development. You don't have to have that one, but that's for Xamarin and stuff like that for Android phones. You want to make sure you have the latest .NET Core runtimes, and software developer kit, you definitely want to make sure that you have the latest SDK for .NET framework for .NET framework. So you'll have to have those. There's another update. Oh, there's another update. Goodness. What's this update got in here? What's in the release notes here? Let's see. I guess that's not too bad. I suppose I'll go. It's for. Oh, jeez. I'm going to do that later. Okay. So what we'll have is, if you've installed your Visual Studio, you've got all of those things clicked and installed. Click Manage Extensions at the top. And you want to make sure that you've got GitHub extension for Visual Studio. So you'll want to click that and get that, definitely. There's some other stuff that you can do as well. Do I want to do any unit tests? I guess we could probably do some unit tests. Let's do unit. I suppose we can do the in-unit test adapter. We'll go ahead and restart our Visual Studio because it's going to install our extension in the background here. So we're updating our Visual Studio. And what this does is it gives us the ability to write tests, unit tests for our code, so we can test our code before we deploy it. Yeah, cool. I know, right? That's taking a little while. Come on, yo. One other thing that we're going to go ahead and get done here. I have Visual Studio. I have Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio at night because I have a SQL Server running on my database here, or I have on my computer here. We may do the hooks into the SQL Server in this particular sprint. That's for the flag functionality, but I don't know yet if I want to do that yet. Man, that's taking a while. What's going on there? Well, while we're waiting, what I'm going to do is we can at least get the functionality kind of out there now. Oh yeah, sure. Now we can get the functionality kind of going. So what we'll do is we'll create a database, and we can not only just add a database, but we can also add a stored procedure to do that. And that's going to be for the flag setting and any logging. But we'll probably do that another time. So let's relaunch our Visual Studio. All right. Let's go ahead and connect to our GitHub, and there we go. We're going to clone our repository. Oh, no. Oh, I did not mean to clone from there. Let me get out of that repository. That's a pain in the rear. I didn't want to clone it to that location. We're going to clone it again, but we're going to change the location here to our other drive where we already have our B drive. This PCB. PC parent. There we go. Clone. I think I just made another directory in there. I'll bet you. No, I'm good. I did. Dadgummit. No, that's not what I want. I always get mixed up with this. So let me close this. And let's just do this. I'm going to get rid of it here. And go into my code repository. And we're going to reclone that again. So what's happening right now, just to kind of explain what's going on, is I want a place where I'm going to store my code so that when I clone it down, it always goes to that spot on my computer here, my local computer. So that's what I'm doing right now. So this PC parent service, I'm going to clone it. And I'm going to click browse. It's not where I want to go. That's on my C drive. I don't have a ton of space because that's where my operating system resides. I'm going to clone this into my code repository folder. And now I'm going to say clone. So now I can see here's my documentation, here's the README that can update if I need to. And so now I'm going to create a solution, new project. And this is going to be a Windows service. So I'm going to go down to service. It's going to be on the .NET framework. Do I want to make this on Windows Core? Yeah, I can make this on Windows Core. Click Next. Change the location by browsing to it of where we were just at in our B drive. Code repository. And this is where we want our code to be. We're going to place our solution and the project in that same directory. Let me browse to that again. No, we're going to add a new folder. We're going to call this PC Parent Service, like that. Select that folder. That's where we want to put that in there. I know that looks funny, but we're going to call this PC Parent Service. To create. And now what's happening is it's going to go through and it's trying to give me a template that I can use for this particular program. And I'm not too fond of that. Let's go to .NET Framework here. excuse me. Let's go back. Let's go and just make a .NET framework one here. I don't feel like fighting with it. And go back to that folder we were at. And PC service. 4.8 is the next framework up, but I haven't downloaded it yet. So create. Now what it's doing, it is going out and it is creating my software here. Again, that did not do what I wanted it to do. Doggone it. Close solution. It created another folder on that folder. Delete that. Let's do that again. New project. It's .NET Framework. PC Parent Service. Browse this. Code repository, PCParentService. There. And place solution project in the same directory. Create. Now I should have my files in there. That's what I was looking for. Okay. Let's go to our project real quick. And let's complete our work wireframe application flow. We are done with our application flow. So we can now close that. And it will show as a task that's done. So we've got 9 more tasks to do. And then we'll be done with our software. We're going to move this next one over here. We're going to create our configuration file and the logic for it, and we're going to encrypt the settings as needed. So inside of our application, we are going to house passwords, usernames, and the like for our email. And we're also going to be grabbing usernames and stuff for users that log in. Well, we don't want to have that information out here on this public domain. So what we need to do is we need to come up with a way to mask that information inside of a config file. Every application that you have is going to have some kind of a configuration file that you can throw stuff into, that you can pull stuff out of, and you can mask things. So one of the things that I learned the hard way is when you're putting stuff out here, you don't want to put that information out here in the public domain. Anyway, let's go back to our documentation folder. And I believe I did have one in there, but I don't have one now. So let's Google how to set up a config file C#. That'll probably take us to Stack Overflow. Oh, there we go. Here's an app config file. Here's how to store and retrieve custom information from an app config file. While I'm in here, I'm gonna go ahead and update my documentation too, because this is a new link. Boom, there we go. Save that. Close that. Alrighty. So these configuration files are in a format called XML. They look a lot like HTML tags and stuff like that, but it's XML, so it's a different protocol of how you view it. And so we're going to find out how to do this in C#. So let's step through, and that looks a little old there. Let's go to a more up-to-date instruction here. I guess it says 2019, so it's just last year. So we'll do this one here. Okay. We don't have to create a console application because we've already got an application we're using. So we've got an app config file already ready to go. And inside of there, we're going to create an app settings area. It's not in there yet, but we're going to create that. And inside of that app settings area, we're going to put our configuration settings inside of it. So the best thing to do, so you see we have a configuration right here. Best thing to do when you see something like that, just copy and paste it. Copy that. Put that underneath there. Ooh. And so the way that Visual Studio, well, let me say this. The way that configuration files work is there's a key right here, and then there's a value. So if you think in Python, you have dictionaries that have keys, like the name of the field and the value of that field. And that's what this is. It's a key value pair. Key value pairs. So one of the things that we can go find out, since we are setting up our config file, is we know that we need to have information in here about our email address and stuff. So I have a generic email address that I have set up for the console application that I run currently. And it's just a regular Outlook one. So I'm going to go find the and so to send out emails manually, you have to use what's called an SMTP server. It's your outgoing email server. And then you have an incoming email server. So let's find out what Outlook SMTP settings is. Well, look at there. Already ready. And we can click this. So POP is incoming. SMTP is outgoing. So here's our SMTP settings right here. So we can also look up our other email settings if we need to, but anyway. So this is what we're going to be using right here. This information right here. So let's copy this and put it in our config. We're going to give our name of our config SMTP mail. SMTP server. I'm going to give it the value of smtp.office.365.com. We're going to say SMTP port 587. Encryption method, if we need that. Start TLS. And then we're going to have to add some keys from, we're going to have to add keys for our from and to and stuff like that. So we're going to call it from email. To email. So this from email will basically be our dummy email address. So it'll be something like, I don't know, notify@.com, something like that. PCParent.notify. And then our to email, we'll leave that out of there. We can configure that later. Actually, I'll just use my email there. There. All right. So we've got those settings so far. We can save this. And actually, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me copy that and undo all those changes. And Notepad. Paste that in there because I'm going to need it in a minute here. Save that. I need to commit some code first. So I'm going to come up with a bare bones basic at my master level code. Right click, add solution to source control. It should throw it into the Git, my local Git. There it is. And now I'm ready to click changes, and I see my new stuff here. I'm going to commit to master branch. Boom. Sync it up by pushing it up. And now, when I come over here to there, there's my service, and there's all my code so far. All right, now we're ready to do some coding here, some actual changing here. So let's go back into our app config, paste it in there, save it. You see that little check mark there. So now, oh, Alex, undo changes. Yep. I need to make a branch. Getting ahead of myself here. So we create a new branch. We're going to call this PC Parent Service. We're going to branch. Let's give it the number of the. We'll give it the number of the issue we're working. So we're going to give it issue 4. And say create. So now I have a branch that all my work's going to go on. So the way this works is, as I work on this branch, my master branch here is going to stay unchanged until I commit it and then I merge it. So now I'm ready. Save that. Got my little check mark there. We're going to close that real quick. Okay. So now it says to add components to your class, drag them from the toolbox and use the property windows to set their property. So let's click on the toolbox and see what we have available. So we've got Windows forms that we can look up here and stuff, you know. We're not doing a form, it's going to be a service, so we're not going to worry about that yet. Common controls here. Containers for data and pointers and stuff. Data. We got components. So here's one we're going to need here. event log. We're definitely going to use that. And Toolbox and process, we're going to use that one. Yeah, let's start there. Oh, what's this dialogue here? Okay. So we're going to give our service a name, our service class a name, I should say. We're going to call it PC Parent Service. And we're going to give it over here in the properties. Let's click through and see what we got. Whether the service should automatically write to the event log on common events such as install and start. Yes, that's true. Can handle a power event, can handle session change, can handle pause and continue, can shut down, can stop. Service name is going to be PC Parent Service. Should change up there. Nope. All right. So let's save that. What's going on in here? Okay. And let's right click on event log and say view code. So the way this is going to work is our service is going to write to the event log when it starts and when it stops. And then in view code, this process one here is going to look for, it's going to look for the startup and the stop of browser events and stuff like that. But before we get too far into the weeds, let's do some bare bones basic looking here. Don't need that anymore. So we're going to Google create a Windows service C#. And let's click on the tutorial here. Better yet, let's go back. Let's go back over here. We've done this so far. In the code view, you see two methods called onStart and onStop. OnStart triggers when the Windows server starts, and onStop triggers when it stops. Right-click the test window service project and name a new class and label it library.cs. This class will be useful to create the methods that we require in the project. So we're going to come over here and let's create a new class. So you right click on your project, say add class, and let's call this our what do we want to call this one? Well, let's go back to our so this one's in progress right now. Send myself to that. And we're gonna call it something else different some other time. Okay. What do I want to call this class? Let's call this class mail client notify and add it. So that's going to do our notifications there. We've already created our configuration file. We've not encrypted anything, so we'll keep that one in progress. So let's move over the notifications here in the code user logins. Assign myself to those two as well. So let's move this up. We're gonna code the notifications first. All right. So in our class, we're going to create some properties. And properties are, how do I explain a property? Properties are containers that you can use where you can either set what's in the container or get what's already in the container. So since this is our email, excuse me, oh my goodness. Since this is our email class, we're going to go ahead and start giving it some properties for emails. So type the word prop. That comes up, the code snippet, hit tab a couple of times, and boom. We're going to call it string. We're going to call this to email. And do the next one, say from email. Subject. To from subject, SMTP, server. We're going to make an integer for the port. What else we got here? Yeah, there we go. And then in here, let's see. We want to make sure we're doing this the right way. So this is our mail notify. So now we're going to create a method that's going to do some logic with this information we've got here. What I want to do, however, is there is a Microsoft.NET excuse me, library called Mail Client. Is Mail Client deprecated? Let me see. I don't know if that's, yeah, that one's obsolete. I think it's called Mail Message. Right, there we go. There we go. We need to make sure we're using the right one. So it's still supported by all these frameworks. So I think we're in by .NET Core. So I think we're okay to use mail message, I should say. So what we're going to do is we're going to type mail message, where we're going to create a new method, and we're going to call this one. We're going to make this a public void, which is a void method. It doesn't return anything. Send, well, you know what? Let's make it public bool send email notification. And we're going to put our try catch in there. We don't want to throw any exceptions. That stops our program from running. Return false. return true. Bye-bye error. Okay. And what this method does, it sends an email notification as needed. You know what? We do need to pass something in there, because if you remember in our flow chart, we go back to our documentation. In our flow chart, we have 3 different kinds of notifications. We've got regular login notifications, restricted browser notifications, and unrestricted browser notifications. So we've got 3 types in there, 3 types. So I'm going to pass in an integer of what if I type, and then we're going to pass that in there. This, let's see, dictates the subject and email that is sent via notification. All right. So we know we talked about using the mail message. So I'm going to explain what I'm doing here. I'm going to use this in a what's called a switch statement. So switch statements are kind of like case statements in JavaScript. So I can look for a specific case. So I can say case 1, case 2, case 3. We've got 3 different kinds of notifications, right? Okay. So if case 1 happens, and case 1 is our login notification. Case 2 is our restricted browser notification. Get rid of that notification. I know it's a notification. All right. And case 3 is non-restricted. So call this method, come in here, say, hey, which email do I have to send out? And then above here in my try catch, I'm going to create a string variable. I'm going to call it, well, actually we're using the property. So in here, I'm going to say to email equals, I don't know, login at PCParentService.com, something like that, right? And restricted login. And then in non-restricted, it's not so much a login, it's going to be restricted browser usage. It's a long email. Restricted at. We'll just make it easy. non-restricted. So it's basically works like a conditional. So what's going to happen is I'm going to call this method. It's going to go through. It's going to check to see which number I need to use. And it's going to say, oh, boom, boom, boom. And this isn't to, this is from. All right. In default, we won't use a default. Okay. Now, I'm going to set my my to email. To email equals, I'm going to use mine. Okay. And then the subject is going to change. Subject is going to be logged into computer at, and I can give it a time. You know what? I'm going to do this. So in Visual Studio, string is a class and it's also a type. And what you can do is you can use a method of the string class called format to make your string look any kind of way. So string.format. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the date time. So I'm going to say user logged in at curly brace 0 year month day space no, we're going to use a time, hour minute second put the colons in there. On so it's going to be user logged in at hours, minutes, seconds on year, month, day. You know what? I need to do that differently. I'm so used to doing that. Month, day, year. Now I'm going to pass in the date and the time. Date, time, now. All right. I can do the same thing down here. And I can say restricted usage at that time. And do the same thing down here. And I can say internet usage. So I've created a method here. Let's go back to our example. Oh, I'm going to use the mail message class too. So down here underneath my switch statement, I'm going to type the word mail message. Now this really cool thing about Visual Studio is that when you see these little squiggly lines and you hover over it, it says the name mail message does not exist in the current context. Show potential fixes. If I hit the control and the period button, it should tell me I need to bring in system.net.mail. Boom, like that. And it turns bluish, aquamarine, greenish. And up here, you'll see a using system.net.mail has been placed in there. So since I'm doing a mail message, you know what? Maybe I should put it up here. No. We'll leave it down here in the method. And let's check the usage over here. No message equals new mail message. And since we're instantiating a new object of that mail message, we can come down here. Now, the cool thing about what we're about to do is we're going to do something like this. And you can say, mail messages should be to, from, subject, body. I believe that's how that works. Oh, you know what? I'm not using their signature the right way. It's a function. All right, so we can see what we're doing. There we go. From, to, subject, body. And now all we have to do is pass in our stuff here. So up here we need to make a to, from, subject. We need to make a body one here. Body. We'll call it email body. And we're just going to pass in to email, from email. I got it backwards. From, to, subject, email subject. Yeah, it's just subject, email body. All right. This actually calls or creates a new instance of mail message. We don't have any attachment data, so we're not going to do like they did here. And then we can come up here to the SMTP client and create an SMTP client. All right, so we're going to do SMTP client. They call it client, right? Client. Equals new SMTP client. And we're going to pass in our SMTP server. And if we need credentials, let's copy this line, but we may not need them. This is a multi-line comment. Boom, boom, boom. We've got that stubbed in there if we ever need it. So now we're going to do another try, catch, exception, well, what does it throw here? It throws I think we want that SMTP exception maybe. Let's see what it says. Yep. So I'm going to catch SMTP exception, SMTP-EX. We don't want to throw it. Log to the application. Log if an exception. So we need to put what's called a to-do here. To-do, put logging code here. And here is where we're going to do our client.send. And we're going to put our message in there. Send a message. All right. I'm way over my time here, y'all. Wow. All right. I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to push this code up into our repository. So let me go over to Team Explorer, changes, added logic for mail, client notify, added reference. And say commit all. So yep, I'm going to save all that stuff. I'm going to sync it to the server and push it up into that branch. So now I go back over here to the branch. There's a branch out there. And it's got my code in here. Right. Sure. Nope, nope, not there. Oh, that's the master branch. No, that's the right branch. Where am I doing it? Oh, there it is. This is where my logic is at right there that I just typed in there. So when we go through this again, we'll continue to add logic into this particular class with this method and go from there. I'll put this video out here real soon. Peace.